This case did not begin with violence. It began with a decision. A younger woman entered the life of a wealthy, aging man and offered exactly what he needed most: attention, affection, and reassurance. What he believed was love was, in fact, access. There were no sudden changes, no visible conflict, no reason for alarm. His health declined gradually during ordinary routines: shared meals, quiet evenings, trusted care. Everything appeared normal, legally sound, medically unremarkable. When death occurred, it looked natural. The assets transferred cleanly. The marriage did what it was supposed to do. What unraveled this case was not emotion or confession. It was pattern recognition, forensic sequencing, and an investigator who treated intimacy as evidence. This is not a story about romance. It is a case study in how affection can be engineered and how belief itself can become a liability. November 3, 2004, Asheville, North Carolina, 9:47 p.m. The house sits on a hillside where the air smells like pine and wet stone. It's one of those properties that looks expensive even in the dark. Tall windows, clean lines, soft lighting that makes everything inside seem warm and safe. It's quiet enough to hear the refrigerator hum. In the kitchen, Thomas Caldwell is gripping the counter with both hands, trying to convince his legs to hold him up. He's 68 years old, retired, private, worth just over $12 million when you count real estate, long-term investments, and the insurance policies he barely remembers signing decades ago. Right now, money is irrelevant, because nausea is climbing up his throat like something alive. His vision swims. The floor tilts. Sweat blooms across his forehead even though the house is cool. His stomach twists hard enough to make him gasp. He hears a chair scrape behind him. Then a voice. Soft, controlled, familiar. Thomas? Lila Caldwell crosses the room in bare feet, moving fast but not frantic. Her hair is pulled back loosely the way he likes, like she's halfway between elegant and intimate. She reaches him just as his knees begin to buckle. "Easy," she says, wrapping an arm around his waist. He leans into her without thinking. That's how natural it has become. Trust, dependence, the unspoken assumption that she will catch him. Lila presses her palm against his cheek, eyes searching his face like she's reading a language no one else can understand. "You're burning up," she whispers. "We're going to the hospital." Thomas tries to speak, to protest. He hates being a spectacle. He hates emergency rooms. He hates the way strangers look at old men in pain like they're fragile. But the pain is tightening now. Abdominal cramps, sharp and relentless, paired with a pressure behind his eyes that feels like heat. He turns suddenly and vomits into the sink so violently his body shakes. Lila holds him steady. To anyone who might have seen them through that glass kitchen door, she would look like devotion in human form. The younger wife supporting her older husband, the beautiful woman taking care of the man who gave her everything. Lila pulls his hair back, rubs his back in slow, calming circles, murmurs assurances. "It's okay," she says. "I'm here. I'm here." She says it like a vow. Thomas doesn't know that this is not an emergency. It's an ending. He doesn't know the sickness didn't happen to him. It was placed, measured, timed. He doesn't know the woman holding his body upright has been designing this night for months, with the same patience she once used to design love. And when the ambulance arrives, and she climbs in beside him with her hand clasped around his fingers, she looks at him like she's terrified to lose him. It is the performance of her life. 5 years earlier, Thomas Caldwell had not been looking for romance. After his first wife died, he stopped using the word future like it belonged to him. He lived quietly in Asheville, surrounded by tasteful furniture and the echo of a life that used to be full. His adult children lived out of state. They called when they remembered. They visited when schedules allowed. They were not cruel, just busy in the way modern life makes people busy. And Thomas understood that. He didn't demand more. He told himself he didn't need more. Until the loneliness stopped feeling like silence and started feeling like proof. Proof that his life was shrinking. That's when Lila Hartman appeared. Charlotte, North Carolina. Spring 1999. A charity auction in a downtown hotel. Black tie, polite smiles, donors trying to look generous without looking desperate. Thomas was there because he'd always been reliable with philanthropy. He donated quietly. It made him feel useful. Lila was there as a guest of someone who wanted to be seen. Thomas noticed her laugh first. It was warm, bright, carefully placed at the right moments, like she knew exactly how to make people lean toward her. She was 30, beautiful in a polished, deliberate way. Not soft, not accidental. She looked like someone who understood what beauty could buy if you used it correctly. She bid on a weekend trip package, laughing when the price climbed out of her reach, acting like it didn't matter. Thomas watched her for longer than he should have. Not lust, recognition. The look of someone who missed being noticed. He approached her at the bar. "Did you want that trip?" he asked. "Or did you want the room to watch you want it?" She smiled without hesitation, like she'd been expecting him. "Maybe I wanted someone interesting to ask," she said. That line would stay with him for weeks. They talked for an hour, then 2. Lila asked about his life like it mattered. She listened with her eyes, not just her ears. She laughed at his jokes like he was still charming. She told him she worked in pharmaceutical sales, that she loved science, that she admired men who built something real. Thomas found himself telling her details he didn't share with anyone else, about his late wife, about the emptiness of the house, about the quiet fear of growing old unseen. Lila's expression softened at exactly the right time. "That sounds lonely," she said. It was the first time anyone had said it out loud to him. Thomas offered to see her again. Lila let him, but she didn't let him believe it was easy. She kept her distance just enough to make him chase. She texted back slowly. She missed a call here and there, then returned it with a voice so sweet he felt silly for ever doubting her. And when she finally let him take her to dinner in Asheville, she made him feel like he was giving her something rare. "Men my age are loud," she said once, swirling wine in her glass. "They talk about themselves like they're advertising. You're quiet." Thomas smiled. Lila leaned forward, lowering her voice. "Quiet is dangerous," she said. "Quiet men surprise you." Romance doesn't always start with lust. Sometimes it starts with relief. Lila became his relief. Their relationship accelerated in slow motion. She met his friends and looked perfect. She touched his arm when she laughed, lingered a half-second longer than necessary. She talked about books she'd skimmed and places she'd never been, and Thomas didn't care. He liked how she sounded saying his name. Lila made him feel young without making him feel foolish. She learned his routines, his habits, what time he checked his mail, how he liked his coffee, which drawer contained the house documents. She framed it as devotion. "I just want to make your life easier," she said. Thomas believed her. They married 18 months later in a small ceremony. No prenup. Thomas's daughter asked about it gently, not accusing, just cautious. Thomas brushed it off. "I don't want to start a marriage assuming betrayal," he said. Lila cried at the wedding. A few people whispered about the age gap. Thomas heard the whispers and felt protective, like her beauty made her vulnerable. Lila used that instinct like a key. After the wedding, the sickness started slowly. Not enough to make him suspicious, just enough to make him grateful for her care. Stomach problems, fatigue, dizziness that arrived like weather. He'd wake up sweaty, heart racing, then it would pass. Lila adjusted his diet. She took over the cooking. She prepared his nightly tea herself, placing the cup in his hands like a ritual. She handled his medication schedule so he wouldn't have to think. When he saw doctors, she came with him. She answered questions before he did, smiling apologetically. "He's been under stress," she'd say. "He doesn't sleep well." Thomas would watch her speak and feel lucky. Lucky. That word. People say love makes you blind. Sometimes it makes you obedient. By summer 2004, Thomas had begun to look smaller. His suits hung looser. His face looked thinner around the cheeks. He stopped going to morning golf because he didn't have the energy. Friends commented. Lila responded with practiced concern. "He hates getting older," she'd say. "He won't admit he needs rest." Thomas felt ashamed, then grateful again. He trusted her. And trust is a dangerous substance. Now back to November 3rd. The ER is bright and cold, the kind of fluorescent lighting that makes skin look gray. Doctors stabilize him. Blood pressure is unstable, temperature elevated, vomiting continuous. A physician asks about food. Lila answers calmly. "He ate what I ate," she says. "We had salmon, salad, nothing unusual." A nurse takes Thomas's blood. Lila holds his hand and whispers to him. "You're going to be okay," she says. "I promise." Thomas's eyes are glassy. He squeezes her fingers weakly, believing the mention of promise means something. While staff rotates in and out, Lila keeps her face composed. She watches. She tracks movements. She notes where the IV pump is positioned, which nurse checks it. Not visibly, subtly, like she's simply attentive. By 1:36 a.m., Thomas's organs begin to fail. At 2:14 a.m., Thomas Caldwell is pronounced dead. Lila screams when they tell her. It's a clean scream, sharp, controlled, convincing. She collapses into a chair like her bones have given out. A nurse wraps a blanket around her shoulders. Lila clutches Thomas's wedding ring in her fist, and the nurse later tells investigators, "I thought she was going to faint." Within 30 minutes, Lila is on the phone. Not to Thomas's children, to someone else. She steps into the hallway, voice low. "Something happened," she says. "It's done." The autopsy is performed the next morning, and this is where the case changes. Because Thomas Caldwell didn't die like an old man with a tired heart. He died like a man whose body was forced to fail. Toxicology reveals elevated levels of a rare compound associated with laboratory-grade materials. Not environmental exposure, not food poisoning, not accidental ingestion. The medical examiner flags the report. Asheville police are notified. Detective Jonathan Reyes receives the call at 16:08. He does not react emotionally. He asks one question first. Was this acute or chronic? When the answer comes back, indicators consistent with repeated exposure, Reyes doesn't say, "Wow." He says, "Then someone had access." Then he asks for a list of people with consistent proximity. The list is short, because chronic exposure doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens through routine, through meals, through beverages, through trust. Reyes opens the file and begins constructing a timeline. He starts with the last day Thomas was healthy. Then he marks the first recorded complaint of illness. Then the frequency increases. He maps symptoms to patterns. The pattern is not random, and in the center of every episode is the same constant. Lila Caldwell. The first interview is conducted 2 days after death. Lila arrives dressed in black, makeup minimal, eyes slightly swollen, her posture controlled. She answers questions with the right amount of grief. She refers to Thomas as my husband, the way someone says, my heart. Reyes watches her hands. He watches her breathing. He asks simple questions. What did he eat? Who cooked? When did symptoms start? Lila responds smoothly. But Reyes is not listening for story. He is listening for structure. And structure is where lies weaken. Because real memories are messy. Lies are neat. Reyes requests Thomas Caldwell's financial records. He pulls property titles, trust documents, insurance beneficiaries. He asks for the most recent will. And what he sees is not just money. It is leverage. Within 6 months of marriage, multiple accounts were consolidated. Beneficiary designations changed. Certain assets moved into structures controlled by Lila as spouse. Everything legal, everything clean, everything too perfect. Then Reyes requests something most people wouldn't think about yet. He requests Lila's employment history, because lab-grade toxins don't appear in a suburban kitchen by accident. 3 hours later, he has the answer. Lila Hartman, now Caldwell, worked in pharmaceutical sales, yes. But her prior job? 3 years earlier. She worked as a lab coordinator for a private research facility outside Charlotte. Access. Reyes doesn't accuse. He documents. And then he does what intelligent investigators do when the story looks beautiful on the surface. He goes beneath it. He starts interviewing Thomas's friends. They describe him as renewed, happy, completely captivated. One friend says, it was like he had been starving for affection and she fed him. Reyes writes that down, because starvation makes people accept meals they should question. Then he interviews Thomas's children. Their answers are measured. They don't want to accuse a grieving widow, but they say things that matter. They mention how quickly Lila inserted herself into decisions, how she encouraged distance, how she framed his children as stress. One daughter says something that makes Reyes's pen stop for half a second. She used to call him her miracle, she says, like he saved her. Reyes asks, did she ever say what she needed saving from? The daughter shakes her head. She'd just smile and say, from struggle. Reyes notes it, because struggle is often another word for poverty. And poverty, when it meets greed, produces strategy. By the end of the first week, Detective Reyes has a working model, not proof. A model. A romance that looks too designed. A death that doesn't behave like natural decline. A spouse with access, and a financial structure that benefits her. Reyes doesn't call it murder out loud yet. He calls it suspicious death under investigation. But privately, he's already doing the thing that makes his cases different. He's not asking, did she do it? He's asking, what would it take for her to do it and leave no trace? Because the most dangerous offenders are not impulsive. They are patient, and patience leaves patterns. That night, November 10th, Reyes returns to the hospital file and reads it line by line. He notices something small, a note from a nurse. Wife unusually calm during crisis, very attentive to IV placement. It's a subjective note, not evidence. But in a case like this, the small notes matter. Because small notes become big questions, and big questions become warrants. Detective Jonathan Reyes does not rush. He knows urgency is the enemy of precision. Instead of confronting Lila Caldwell again, he waits. He allows grief to settle. He allows routines to resume. People reveal more truth when they believe the danger has passed. Reyes begins with the body. The autopsy report is finalized 3 days after Thomas Caldwell's death. Cause of death is listed as cardiac failure precipitated by acute poisoning. The compound is synthetic, not something found in food, water, or household cleaners, not something absorbed accidentally. The toxicologist's notes are careful but firm. The concentration suggests multiple exposures over time, not a single incident. Reyes circles the phrase with a pen. Multiple exposures mean opportunity. Opportunity means access. Access means intimacy. There is only one person who meets all three conditions. But suspicion is not evidence. Reyes orders a complete review of Thomas Caldwell's medical history for the previous 18 months. Every doctor visit, every complaint, every prescription. A pattern emerges. Mild gastrointestinal distress beginning roughly 10 months before death. Episodes increasing in frequency. Each episode resolving just enough to avoid hospitalization, until the end. Reyes overlays those dates with household records. Dinner parties, travel. Nights Thomas ate outside the home. The data narrows. The symptoms occur almost exclusively on nights Lila cooked. That correlation alone is not enough. So Reyes goes deeper. He requests a forensic review of Thomas Caldwell's hair. Hair grows continuously. It records exposure like a timeline. Each centimeter preserves a chemical history the body cannot erase. The lab cuts the hair into segments. Each segment represents approximately 2 weeks of growth. They test each segment. The results arrive 6 weeks later. The chart is unambiguous. There is no single spike. There are repeated peaks. Consistent, deliberate, measured. Small doses over months. Then a sharp escalation in the final week. Reyes studies the graph silently. This was not an act of rage. This was administration. Now Reyes turns to Lila Caldwell's life outside the house. He subpoenas her work records. She is not just a pharmaceutical sales representative, as she told friends. She previously worked as a lab coordinator at a private biotech firm in Charlotte. Her role involved chemical inventory oversight. Reyes requests inventory logs. There is a discrepancy. A compound logged out under her credentials months before Thomas's first serious illness, marked as disposed. No disposal documentation exists. Reyes does not confront her with this yet. Instead, he builds the rest of the frame. Financial records come next. Thomas Caldwell updated his will 6 months after marriage. Lila became the primary beneficiary of nearly all liquid assets. Life insurance policies were amended, retirement accounts consolidated, all legal, all signed willingly. But one detail matters. Thomas had scheduled a follow-up appointment with his estate attorney 2 weeks before his death. The appointment never happened. Reyes interviews the attorney. Thomas had expressed concerns, not accusations, concerns. He had asked about asset protection, about separating certain accounts. He had asked quietly, "What happens if I need to change things?" That conversation never progressed. Thomas died first. Reyes schedules a second interview with Lila Caldwell. She arrives composed, dressed conservatively, eyes red enough to suggest ongoing grief. Reyes does not accuse. He asks her to tell the story again, from the beginning. Lila speaks smoothly. Her story has not changed. But Reyes notices something. She never uses time references naturally. She anchors events to emotions, not moments. People telling the truth remember disruption. People lying remember scripts. Reyes asks about the cooking. She smiles faintly. "I like taking care of him," she says. "He depended on me." Reyes lets the silence stretch. Dependence is a dangerous word. Reyes executes a search warrant on the house. The kitchen is immaculate. But in the garage, inside a locked storage cabinet, they find something Lila forgot. Latex gloves, lab-grade syringes, a vial with trace residue. The compound matches the toxicology profile. Reyes does not arrest her yet. He wants motive to stand next to method. He examines Lila's communications, emails, texts, burner phones. There is another man, not a long-term affair, not love. A financial consultant in Atlanta. Older. Wealthy. The messages are familiar. Admiration. Flattery. Emotional intimacy. The same pattern. Romance as leverage. Reyes writes one sentence in his notebook. She doesn't love men. She studies them. The arrest happens quietly. No cameras, no drama. Lila Caldwell is taken into custody on a Tuesday morning. She does not cry. She asks one question. Did he suffer? The question is not remorse. It is quality control. At trial, the prosecution does not rely on emotion. They rely on structure. The hair analysis shows the timeline. The inventory logs show access. The financial records show motive. The syringes show delivery. The romance collapses under mathematics. Lila's defense argues coincidence, stress, age. The jury does not deliberate long. They see what Detective Reyes saw. Love was the cover. Wealth was the objective. Patience was the weapon. Lila Caldwell is convicted of first-degree murder. She is sentenced to life. No parole. Thomas Caldwell's children inherit what remains. The house on the hill is sold. The kitchen where trust lived is emptied. Detective Reyes closes the file with a single observation. The most dangerous crimes don't begin with violence. They begin with affection. Because romance does not always blind people. Sometimes it trains them not to look.